Hey there, I'm Luna. I'm a 32-year-old marketing executive, and let me tell you, my story is about to take a wild turn. For the past 5 years, I thought I had it all with my husband Derek. We were living what looked like the American dream, married to a handsome 35-year-old hotshot lawyer with a smile that could melt stone. We had a beautiful house in the suburbs, 2 cars in the driveway, and plans to start a family. Luna, honey, have you thought about baby names yet? Derek would ask with that charming smile of his. I'd laugh it off, saying, easy there. Tiger, let's make the baby first. If only I'd known the storm brewing under the surface. Derek's family, oh, they were straight out of a Hallmark movie. His mom, Barbara, was always trying to fatten me up with her famous casseroles. Luna, dear, you're too skinny. How will you carry my grandbabies? She'd say, while his dad, Richard, chuckled from behind his newspaper. Even Derek's sister, Melissa, would roll her eyes, but with a smile that always felt more like acceptance than judgment. But things started changing, almost too subtly to notice at first. Derek was coming home later and later, always with an excuse. Sorry, Luna, big case. Johnson's breathing down our necks about this merger. Then there were the phone calls. He'd step out of the room, voice lowered. I'm not proud, but I started listening at the doors. Yeah, it's done. No, she doesn't suspect a thing. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Confused, I turned to my best friend, Zoe, over margaritas. Z, am I crazy? Or is something up with Derek? Zoe, ever the blunt one, looked at me squarely and said, Luna, honey, something's fishy. You might want to consider hiring a PI. At first, I resisted, but then desperation won. The PI's report arrived a week later, detailing multiple visits to a urologist's office. My heart raced with dread, but it wasn't until I stumbled upon a crumpled receipt in Derek's office drawer that the full truth came crashing down. My hands shook as I unfolded it, the words blurring through my tears. Vasectomy consultation and procedure. I whispered in disbelief, Derek. And as the realization hit, a plan began to form. The next morning, I dropped the bomb. Derek, honey, I said, steadying my voice, I'm pregnant. The look on his face was priceless, a stretched smile hiding barely contained panic. That's wonderful, Luna, he stammered, pulling me into a hug that felt more like a cage than an embrace. Later that week, I overheard him on a call with his old college buddy Tom. Pressing myself against the wall, I strained to hear. A vasectomy? Are you insane? Tom hissed. Derek's voice was desperate. I had to. Luna was getting baby crazy. You know I never wanted kids. The betrayal was like a knife twisting in my heart, but I held it together. I needed more information, and I knew exactly where to start. Enter Sarah, Derek's beautiful coworker, who I'd always been a little wary of. I invited her for coffee, flashing her a friendly smile. Derek talks about you all the time, she gushed. I leaned in, giving her a conspiratorial grin. Really? You must have some good stories about him. Her smile wavered. Well, I don't know if I should say. Oh, come on, we're friends now, right? I coaxed, and soon, the floodgates opened. She spilled it all. Derek's flirtations, those business trips that didn't add up, the hushed phone calls. She looked at me, genuinely regretful. I'm so sorry, Luna. I thought you knew. But the real kicker? That came when I decided to do some digging of my own. Late one night, while Derek was fast asleep, I cracked into his laptop. What I found made my blood run cold. Buried in his financial records was a trail of embezzled money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, all funneled into gambling accounts. My husband, the upstanding lawyer, was nothing but a common thief. How are you feeling, sweetie? Derek would ask the next morning, his hand hovering awkwardly over my still flat stomach. Just peachy, I'd reply with a forced smile. Two could play this game, but as I lay awake that night, my mind raced. I was in way over my head. How far was I willing to go to expose the truth, and when all was said and done, would there be anything left of my life to salvage? The tension in our house thickened, like a pressure cooker ready to blow. Derek's paranoia hit a fever pitch. One night, he stormed into the bedroom, his eyes wild. Who were you talking to on the phone, Luna? He demanded, his voice dripping with suspicion. I sighed, feeling the weight of exhaustion. It was Zoe, Derek, same as always. Don't lie to me, he shouted, his face twisted with anger. I know you're cheating. It's the only explanation. That was it, the last straw. I snapped, unleashing everything I'd kept bottled up. You want to talk about lying, Derek? Fine, let's talk about your little secret. His face went pale. What are you talking about? I pulled the crumpled vasectomy receipt from my pocket, waving it in his face. Care to explain this? What followed was an explosive argument, years of resentment, and secrets tearing through us like shrapnel. Fine, he yelled, his face flushed. I got a vasectomy, happy now. Why? I asked, my voice breaking. Why would you do this? Derek's expression hardened, his voice turning cold. Because you trapped me, Luna. This whole marriage was a mistake. I never wanted kids, never wanted this life. But you pushed and pushed. His words hit like physical blows, each one leaving a fresh wound. What are you saying? He laughed bitterly. I'm saying I've been living a double life, Luna. The perfect husband at home. But outside, I was free. No kids, no responsibility. Just me, living the life I always wanted. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. It was his family, probably alerted by our shouting. Barbara rushed in, her face stricken with worry. What's going on here? She demanded. Derek, ever the snake, turned to his family, his eyes brimming with fake tears. Luna's been lying to all of us, he said, his voice breaking. She's not really pregnant. She's been manipulating me, manipulating all of us. I stood there, paralyzed as he spun a web of lies. According to him, I pressured him into marriage, faked the pregnancy, and schemed to keep him trapped. His family's sympathy morphed into cold stares. Is this true, Luna? Richard asked, his voice heavy with disappointment. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but before I could say a word, Melissa stepped forward. There's more, she murmured, her gaze flickering between us. Derek, I knew about the vasectomy. I'm sorry. I should have told you. The room erupted. Accusations flew, tears spilled, and through it all, I remained silent, watching as the last shreds of my life unraveled. In a daze, I packed my bags, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a lead blanket. Outside, Zoe waited in her car, her face soft with sympathy. You okay, hun? She asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I shook my head, feeling tears finally spill over. I don't know. I don't know who I am anymore, Z, I whispered, staring out the car window as we drove away from the house I once called home. Everything I thought I knew, my marriage, my future, had turned to ashes. Zoe squeezed my hand gently. You're the strongest person I know, Luna. You'll get through this. I nodded, wiping away a tear. She was right. This was just the beginning, and Derek had no idea what was coming. Months after the fallout, I threw myself into my work, making the office my sanctuary, a place where I could rebuild myself, piece by piece. Luna, these campaign numbers are incredible, my boss told me one day. How would you feel about heading up your own department? I felt a surge of pride, a spark of the woman I used to be reigniting. I'd say it's about time, I replied with a smile. But that was just the start. With a newfound confidence, I took a leap and launched my own marketing firm. The day I signed the lease on my new office space, I felt like I could conquer the world. Late one evening, as I was working alone, a memory crept into my mind. Derek's embezzlement. My finger hovered over the send button of an anonymous email to his law firm. For a moment, I hesitated. Then, with a deep breath, I clicked. The fallout was swift. Within weeks, Derek was fired and disbarred, his once golden reputation shattered. Then the hits kept coming. Sarah, his former coworker, came forward with proof of his affairs, multiple affairs. The news spread like wildfire through our old social circles, and Derek's entire world began to crumble. One day, as I was leaving my office, I ran into Barbara and Richard. They looked older, worn down by everything that had happened. Luna, Barbara said softly, her voice trembling. We owe you an apology. We had no idea about Derek's activities. Richard nodded solemnly. We were wrong to doubt you. Is there any way we can make amends? I looked at them, these people who had once felt like family. For a moment, I was tempted to let them back into my life. But then I remembered the pain, the betrayal. I took a deep breath. I appreciate you saying that, I replied, my voice steady. But I think it's best if we go our separate ways. I wish you well. As I walked away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I was free from the lies, the manipulation, the toxic bonds that had held me back for so long. Months turned into years, and my business flourished. I found joy in the simplest things. A quiet evening was the thrill of a successful campaign, the freedom to make my own choices. One night, as I sat on my balcony overlooking the city lights, I reflected on everything that had happened, the pain, the betrayal, and the long journey back to myself. Through it all, I learned an invaluable lesson. Trust your instincts and never ever compromise your values for anyone. Luma's journey through betrayal and rebirth has come to an end, but now I want to hear from you. If you were in Luna's shoes, would you have exposed Derek's embezzlement or kept that information to yourself? What do you think is the right thing to do when you discover someone's illegal activities, especially if that person has hurt you deeply? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might help others facing similar dilemmas. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more compelling stories about overcoming life's toughest challenges.